Following the recovery of the hydrocarbon from the system will be left in a partial vacuum. We now need to put nitrogen into the system to take that partial vacuum back up to a slight positive pressure, ready to unbraze the system. The two reasons that we are backfilling the partially evacuated system with oxygen-free nitrogen are A, so that we don't allow air and moisture back into the refrigeration system, but B, and the most important reason, so that we don't have a potentially flammable mixture inside the refrigeration system. Introduce the nitrogen slowly to the system until you bring the partial vacuum up to just above 0 psi or 0.1 of a bar. You need to make sure that this is uniform across both sides of the system, allowing it time to equalise. Before we proceed to unbrazing the connection on the system, we need to ensure that the pressure that we put into the system is released to atmosphere. Now we relieve the pressure to atmosphere, we need to remove the blue gauge line, the low side gauge line, because we're actually going to unbraze the shaded connection at this point. We need to remove the gauge line, more importantly, remove the Schrader core so that we don't have any pressure build up in the system while we're unbrazing. We're now going to unbraze the Schrader connection on the system. To ensure that we don't burn the system, we suggest that you bend the process tube out into free air so that we can get the turbo torch directly onto the component. To reiterate that when you're working invasively in the system, as we have been for the whole of this procedure, a fire extinguisher should be available in close proximity. This will either be a carbon dioxide fire extinguisher if you're working inside a building, or a dry powder which is suitable both inside a building and externally. If possible, while we're unbrazing, it's preferable to purge a small amount of nitrogen through the system while you unbraze. This isn't always achievable, especially if you can't access the high side of the system to achieve this. Prior to unbrazing, we need to make sure that our ventilation is adequate and that our leak monitor is indicating that the area is clear and that we're safe to begin unbrazing. We're using a simple turbo torch to unbraze the Schrader connection from the system. If you prefer to use oxyacetylene, that is also available in the centre. Prior to grazing the new Schrader connection onto the system, cut back the old connection beyond the point of the original graze. Post-grazing the Schrader connection back onto the system, make sure it's cooled sufficiently before you replace the core. place the core and then bend the process tube back into its original position carefully.